To preface this review, Guy Ritchie is one of my all-time favorite writer-directors, and the reason is because I love his bad movies as much as I love his amazing films. Now, I know that sounds confusing, so I will elaborate. So, my all-time favorite directors are Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan. Why? Because even their weakest films like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Tenet are still extremely well-made films, and they're just great films overall. Guy Ritchie's films, the best of the best, are 10 out of 10s, and the worst of the worst are at least always entertaining. I mean, I would say his worst of the worst are big live-action films, such as Aladdin and the like, and then his all-time greatest are the likes of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Rolla, even Sherlock Holmes. I didn't really care for the second one, but I liked the dialogue in it, and that's the number one thing I love about Guy Ritchie's films, more so his writing. His dialogue is so quippy. He can dish out like 25 one-liners right in a row within a minute time frame, and they all sound smart as fuck. Now, his direction is also impeccable as well, but at the same time, he's what you would consider an independent filmmaker in the sense of even when he has a big studio backing him, his direction is just very unique, very different, very unorthodox, where not everybody will like his films. And that's what I love about Guy Ritchie. Even when he does big budget films, he still makes very unorthodox and very uniquely different films. Now, like I said, just about his all-time greatest film is Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels to this day. I love The Gentleman almost as much as that film, although with The Gentleman he relied way too much on the word cunt throughout his entire dialogue. Whereas Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, he has a one-liner for basically every single written sentence in that fucking film. I did prefer the theatrical edition of Lock, Stock over the director's cut just because the pacing felt better. But I have both versions, and the reason I have both versions is because I bought the theatrical on Vudu on HD or 4K. I forget which one you can get it on now. But then the director's cut I bought because the DVD version looks better, and it was the director's cut. Now, if we're talking Lock, Stock, we're fast forwarding about 20 plus years and we get another big budget film from Guy Ritchie, and this is literally called Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal as the Big, and I believe the up-and-comer actor is Dar Salim. So the main story of this is having to do with a nod and homage to our country's military and the traitors of other countries that have helped us in our fight against terrorism and the like. And this film does not hold back. It is not shy about what goes down in these circumstances. The main story of this film, the premise, is Jake Gyllenhaal's military character leads a group of military guys in Afghanistan, and they are helped alongside the interpreter, which he constantly calls the translator, which is supposed to be kind of an inside joke in the movie, because Dar Salim's character keeps repeating that he's an interpreter, not a translator. And throughout the film, you actually get to know a lot about the military crew, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and even Dar Salim, the interpreter, who is called Ahmed in the film. Now, throughout this film, you learn about the characters, and then eventually, most of the characters get killed off by the terrorists, the enemies in Afghanistan. And the main story is about Jake Gyllenhaal's character going unconscious after Ahmed saves his life from the terrorists, and then they spend 3 weeks with Ahmed basically wheeling around Jake Gyllenhaal's character, trying to get him out of all of the bad zones, as well as trying to protect himself at the same time. It sounds really illogical, and I get it. It most likely would be in a real-life setting, But for a film, this is an excellent premise because it's very original. And then afterwards, Jake Gyllenhaal's character gets rescued and then spends the next 3 weeks to 2 months trying to push out and get Ahmed's immunity and passport paperwork set up so Ahmed can leave from Afghanistan to our country, America. And the second half of this film is about that struggle, as well as Jake Gyllenhaal's character realizing nobody's going to fucking help him. So he has to go in by himself and save this man who gave his family his life again. And so that's the second half of the film. Now, what I can say about this film overall, this is an excellent masterpiece. I have no actual gripes with this film. I have nitpicks as far as the filmmaking, but as far as the film itself, it is an excellent masterpiece with what we were given. This is about 2 hours of a runtime, and this doesn't really have 3 acts. It's more like a first and second half, where the first half you get to know the characters, shit happens, and then the second half is basically recuperation and going back in, getting them. And the writing and direction are phenomenal. And I completely understand why Guy Ritchie named this officially Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, because this film, how it is shot, you cannot tell without looking it up that this is a Guy Ritchie film. Okay, this is, I don't want to say this is a standard filmed movie, but this is not the likes of traditional Guy Ritchie filming. Now, Guy Ritchie and co, they have a lot of beautiful landscape shots, as well as the inner filmmakings around the characters and the violence and everything. And another thing I loved about this film is that this is a military film. It's rated R, but honestly, for a military R-rated film, this is kind of a soft film. Like, there's a lot of violence, but none of it is grotesque, not even the language throughout. Nothing really screams grotesque in this film. Honestly, I think anybody can watch this film. And not just that, but Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is literally what Top Gun Maverick strives so desperately to be. Now, I liked Top Gun Maverick, but I absolutely despised the first Top Gun. And Maverick, the downside I had with Maverick is that it took way too many cues from the first Top Gun in the storytelling and narrative. Top Gun Maverick was very patriotic, yes, but Guy Ritchie's The Covenant sets itself in realism in the sense of the timeline of the actual Afghan war, how long it was, who all helped us. Guy Ritchie made a preface and an outro explaining the events of what made this film a thing. The fact that there were interpreters and translators in Afghan that betrayed their own people for the sake of their people's freedom. They one day realized that their group were actual terrorists, so they decided to help us who were trying to just keep our citizens alive and free and trying to maintain order there. And the interpreters realized that, so they tried to help. And this film is that. And honestly, the performances are the absolute best thing in Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. And then a very close second is how super patriotic Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is for Americans. You watch this film, and not only are you rooting for our military people, you're rooting for all of the people that help our military characters in this film. The Afghans, interpreters, the people that work on our system for visas and everything. Now, with that being said, I must also preface why I think this film is so patriotic, even more patriotic than Top Gun Maverick. Because there's one reason. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant does not shy away from the negatives of our system. Top Gun Maverick was all about basically glorifying our military. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is all about showing what goes in the service of our military people, what goes into the service of the traitors helping us, and it shows the struggle on how immigration works and how honestly for the most part, it fails us. Our system's immigration is a fucking joke no matter who is in office. The way I look at it for immigration visas, it should be the government gets a name. They background check for the entire world. They should be able to find some kind of thing that they did criminally anywhere. And if they don't find anything, approve them immediately. Most times, foreigners are refugees. Not always, but a lot of times, especially when they are people that helped our military troops. And that's the one thing that really pissed me off about this film. Not towards the film, the fact that Guy Ritchie was so brutally honest about our system with this. Our immigration services, I do believe they treat our brothers in arms that help us succeed in wars. I do believe our system treats them as such, like it shows in this film. And I'm not at all about open borders. What I am about is, if it's been verified that somebody outside of the country helped our citizens or our military just succeed in some way, they should automatically be approved to be legal American citizens, not all of this month-long, year-long bullshit process. And this film is very gritty in the sense of the military standards and immigration services. And that's what I love the most about Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. And that is why I strongly consider this to be the most patriotic film for America ever made. Now, I've gone through about 11 minutes explaining how wonderful and excellent this film is, mainly just because of the fact that they show the great things about our country and they show the bad things. Now, a little small minor nitpick I have with Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, like I said, the film is a masterpiece already. The little nitpick I have with this is the whole only two halves of a film. Now, this is a 2-hour film, and it works so well with characterizations and character writing, and you feel for these characters. With that being said, I feel like this should have been at least a 2.5-hour film with 3 full acts, because through the second half, Guy Ritchie felt the need to squeeze into just under an hour of recuperating, helping him, going in, trying to extract. All of that in under an hour. I feel like that second half should have been majorly fleshed out to at least 2.5 hours. Give us an extra half hour of the struggle of all of those scenes. And I think this would have been an 11 out of 10 of a film. Otherwise, outside of that small minor nitpick, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece. It is masterclass in patriotism, and it just shows the ups and downs of our country, of the United States of America. This is an amazing country. I love living in America. I really do. But that's not saying that I agree with absolutely everything this country offers. There are major flaws with this country, and I'm so glad Guy Ritchie's The Covenant exploited some of those flaws to show you what sometimes goes down with immigration services, on top of what veterans had to go through, especially in the Afghan war. So Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is a 10 out of fucking 10. Thank you.